Hello, my name is Kinbote. I'm in the south side of Glasgow, and today I've been at work, but now I'm sipping a nice cold beer at my desk at home. So the beginnings of Kinbote as a project was when I was at uni and I was just making music on GarageBand, kind of just using the built-in microphone. And I just made a bunch of songs, slowly released a few as like EPs. And at the same time I was part of a kind of arts collective that put on basically like poetry slams and like events at uni. So I collaborated with my friends in there and they encouraged me eventually to sort of pull it all together to make it into like a proper thing. That's when I started trying to think of a name, which took like a long time. I had like a long list of names and I eventually landed on Kinbote. It's the name of the protagonist of Pale Fire, which is a Nabokov book. So at that point, I had sort of made an album and I made the whole album, still not quite knowing what I wanted to do with it or what I was going to call the project. I sent it to Lost Map and amazingly, they liked it. So then we released that album. Before Kinbote, I was in a series of sort of high school bands with kind of unfortunate names. I was in a band called Bass Rock, which I think was a good name when I was like 14. And the next band was called Dawn Rockets, which sort of sounds like a loose euphemism, but I guess we didn't realize at the time. And then finally we were in a band called Bedroom Athlete. I don't know what we were thinking really, but I've honestly found being in a band quite frustrating because you have to write a song and then teach it to the band and they're not paying attention or they don't do what you'd imagined. So actually discovering the DAW and drum programming and just making everything exactly how I wanted it was kind of a revelation, because at that point you can just see a sort of like something from conception to creation without anything limiting you. And the white liquid running down your wrist is the cold summer road theme. I'm afraid of the hold up. Every day is a race just to own up, because the sludge in the 5G is threatening to swallow us both up. A pomegranate stolen from co-op, glass sandwich froze on arrival, a desk with a motor to rise up, bright green algae in my cup. There's always a reason not to, hanging on the cold summer season. Cold brew, water bottle hanging from your wrist made of bamboo. Walking the bypass made me brand new. 3D scans of the face of God like home life. So for the new album, I was just sort of continuing to make musical sketches as the first album was releasing. And I started to just record things with more like intention. Like I would go out with a Zoom recorder, Zoom H5, with a little sort of stereo array mic, and just record things like soundscapes or specific sounds that I thought would be interesting or could make interesting textures. So for instance, at that time, I recorded things like wind chimes and the sound of rain falling on a snare drum. That's in the album. And also just like I would go on a walk and record like anything that sounded interesting to me on the walk, and then kind of bring that all together to make a sort of soundscape that the song would emerge out of. And this led to a sort of quite intense period of making a lot of songs, and it got to the point where I had about sort of 17 songs, and I was like, okay, well this could be the album. And maybe a third of those were instrumental tracks, and there's a few instrumentals on Shifting Distance. So I thought I'd do the same thing with instrumental interludes. But then I don't know, when I listened to it back, it just was too much. Like, there was too much going on, it was too long, and the instrumental tracks, I think they just really would have pulled you out of it. And then lyrically, I was trying to focus down on sort of a theme at a certain point, which was about like international trade and travel. I think it was because the pandemic was making me think about how international trade routes are so important to everybody's lives, especially the things you sort of consume, and things like that ship getting stuck in the Suez Canal, disrupting things, and just general supply chain issues. I just thought that was an interesting theme. So I tried to sort of bring that out in some of the songs. And then I also kind of did songs in character. So there's some songs which clearly are not sung from the perspective of me as a person. There's one song on the album called Daily Vlogger, which is about the obsessed fan of a daily vlogger. And I was trying to examine kind of like parasocial online relationships by singing from the perspective of the sort of obsessed fan and then the vlogger himself, and going back and forth. And then there are some songs which are more personal, just about how I was feeling at the time, about things like getting a job and being in a long distance relationship. So then it all sort of coalesced. I got somebody to mix about half the songs on the album for the first time, which I've never done that before. And that was kind of an illuminating process, mostly just learning all the things that I do wrong when I mix and watching a professional do it. It was very illuminating.
Burning precious metals, sleeping through the air, kicking at your kennel, bet you wouldn't dare. Burning precious metals, sleeping through the air, kicking at your kennel, bet you wouldn't dare. I'm running up the views as I take the lead, filling up the trough, stepping back as they feed. A kiss from a stranger is just that sweet. I'm happy to announce my reasons to read.
So the first track in the album is called Rotate, and it was the first single. The idea from this song came from living in Copenhagen, where everybody cycles everywhere. Often you cycle drunk, and I can't remember if this actually exists or I made it up, but like the idea of a pub crawl where you all cycle from pub to pub is an interesting one, you know, because you just get more and more inebriated and you're more likely to crash. And I thought it was maybe a good way to frame this story idea I had about a couple who are basically having a kind of relationship ending argument during this pub crawl. And that's, the lyrics are actually their argument.
It ends in tears, and you know why. You're always on your phone outside. You laugh too loud and never smile. You haven't bought around in a while. Misspoke around the table. Glance at your break cable. Your glance is like the sea.
Track number 5 is called 1,000 Smiles. I think I was thinking about like surveillance at this point, as in if you were a surveillance camera, you'd see 1,000 smiles an hour, or maybe like every 15 minutes, depending on where you are. And it follows this story of a guy who's in witness protection and just very paranoid about surveillance, traveling around Europe trying to evade his former criminal collaborators. Then we've got Ono Second straight after that. That's track 6. An Ono Second is the second after which you realise you've done something really bad that you can't reverse. You say you accidentally deleted your thesis or something. You have an oh no second. So this was kind of about saying something that was wrong and then having an oh no second. And the samples here of the guy speaking, that's an old BBC interview with Fellini, the director Fellini, where he talks about doing acid. And I don't know, sort of says like a bunch of nothing really, but I thought there was a sort of musicality to what he was saying in that, and so it features quite heavily as a sample in this track.
Always open. This kind of door. Always open.
Never meant to make you cry in the summertime. Never meant to make you cry at this or any time. Never meant to make you sad in any season. Never meant to make myself the reason. This isn't fun anymore. Trading blows like we're supposed to, it's become a bore. This isn't fun anymore. In throes of supposition, it's become a bore.
Persephone. This is really about a long distance relationship and having to communicate through video calls with like bad internet, which obviously sort of crushes and stretches out the sound of you speaking as you're trying to talk to somebody. So I tried to do that with this. I mean, the beginning is just an old voice note of me doing a sort of guitar riff that I've kind of stretched out to fit a different beat, and then that sort of forms the basis of the song.
17 times 19.
Now, music and noise.
223. 17 times 19.
Now, music and noise.
223.
Beating the woods at the back of your parents' house to drive the birds away. Was I misunderstood through a digital doorway?
17 times 19.
Now, music and noise.
223. 17 times.
The last song on the album is called Drift, and it's sort of a two-section song like a couple of the other ones are. This is sort of trying to pull together the themes of the album through this metaphor of the manufacture of those metal signs that you might see on your mum's kitchen wall, which they say things like, never get so busy making a living that you forget to make a life, or some kind of like saying or aphorism. And going into like how those are made, obviously they're like, I guess, made across the world and then shipped over, and then you buy it on Amazon and it arrives at your house, and you don't really think about that as a process, just in the same way as you don't really think about what it's saying. It just sort of blends into the background and your eyes sort of slide off it. It stops really becoming like words. This song is largely made out of the same sort of old Yamaha keyboard that I made a lot of shifting distance on, and to be honest, not much of Hemisphere on. It's just that for this particular song, paired with a delay pedal actually, and it created a kind of oppressive atmosphere that I thought was good for the end of the album. I do like when albums end on a sort of slightly theatrical or gloomy note. The manufacture's simple when you get down to it. Assembly is portioned out and atomized. You'd never know the true size of these signs. As letters alphabeticized and costed rise from sheets of metal hit hard with tiny mallets on the farthest north tip of the machines managed by the same code that just told the engines on a ship to leave its fetters grinding far below the many souls of easyjetters who all know at some level all the costs not like a machine does, but at frequency not far from forest telling itself that the rain is coming. The rain is coming, lie down and get ready. The album comes out on the 12th of April, and we've got a launch for it in Glasgow lined up. It's going to be at the Glad Cafe on the 14th, so that's Sunday night. And it's going to be the launch of the album where I play the whole thing live, but it's also going to be the launch of the sort of visual element, which has been coming through on the music videos so far, but is an actual full piece, basically a short film that accompanies the album and continues a sort of a storyline that is told through 10 different music videos made by a few different directors and visual artists that I've roped in. So it will be a sort of live AV experience. So I'm really excited about that. And we've also got the amazing Isa Gordon on support and Slide Cancel, who does his own kind of really cool live AV show, and they're both amazing, and I think the whole thing's going to mesh quite well. And yeah, I'm really excited about it.
Always open. This kind of door are always open.
But he's always been preoccupied with the spiritual, the subconscious world, dreams, extrasensory perception, the occult.
It stopped being fun right after he arrived. Running up and down the hill and making echoes. Oh well, we'll survive.
Always open.
Thinking, oh well, we'll survive.
Always open. This kind of door. Always open.
Never meant to make you cry in the summertime. Never meant to make you cry at this or any time. Never meant to make you sad in any season. Never meant to make myself the reason. This isn't fun anymore. Trading blows like we're supposed to, it's become a bore. This isn't fun anymore. In throes of supposition, it's become a bore.
We see colors in the object, you know.
Yeah.
We see object who are colored.
Find ourselves among another version of the people outside, waving at a car that isn't slowing down. It's in between your eyes. decide in any season. Never meant to make myself the reason. This isn't fun anymore.